Well, good evening. My name is Tim Fuller. I am one of the co-owners of Still Life Massage and Float here in Bellingham, Washington. And tonight I am speaking with one of our most frequent floaters, Leslie Wargo. She has been floating with us for about a year and a half on a weekly basis, if not more than once a week. And she is about to embark on a 31-day float journey. And she came to us with this idea to help bring awareness to a side of floating that I don't think we talk about as much as we should. I think we all know that floating just makes you feel good, physically relaxing, you're zenned out, you're in your place. But then there's the folks who come and float to help themselves with serious issues with post-traumatic stress and anxiety. And she has, we never pry into our clients' lives. We just let them do their thing here at Still Life and give them a safe place of peace and calmness to let them do their own self-healing. But I can attest over the last year and a half just seeing Leslie kind of transform into a calmer, it's hard to explain, but just seeing there definitely has been a difference in the year and a half since you first came through our door. So she came through our door because she had been doing different things, it sounds like, to help with her stress and her anxiety, and she had read about floating and how that helps, and thought she'd give it a try, and she's going to tell us how it has. Yes. So the 31 days of floating.
Yes.
So another reason for this interview too is to help bring awareness to floating and how it helps in these situations, and to let other folks know that this is a great viable option to seek some help and self-healing in these situations.
Absolutely.
And also to help raise money. So half of this is for raising money for her floats. The other half, we are trying to raise money to actually send donations to the Laureate Institute of Brain Research Float Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They specialize in this, and they're actually doing clinical studies and trials on folks suffering from PTSD, stress, and anxiety disorders, and how it really does help them get better. And so we're looking to have you asked, or we're going to ask you to actually go to our GoFundMe site also and try to help Leslie out to do this. Okay, so I guess the first question I have for you is, why the 31 days? Where did that come from?
Well, I had actually watched a girl's video journey. She had floated on and off for a couple of years, and then she took a 2-year hiatus from it, found herself even more stressed again, and did 30 days to get back into that calm state that she had previous when she was floating. So I thought, that'd be kind of cool. And I had done my 10 days, 10 or 11 days.
11, I remember.
Yeah, 11
yes.
days in October. And of course I did no work. It was just my vacation time. I came here and did some self-care, which isn't something I'm really good at. At that point in time, I wasn't. So, except for coming here regularly. I've been coming here regularly for about a year maybe at that point. So, I thought, well, let's do 30 days and see what happens, but I wanted to, by a year and a half of floating, I've kind of been able to go, okay, these are the things that I'm seeing that have changed, and things that people have said they have seen change in me as well. Especially even when I first started floating, it was like, I heard people say you're not so uptight anymore, and you just weren't glowy, and you're more just calmer.
It's so true.
Not so nervous all the time.
And I think it is that regular floating. I mean,
That
people
does,
come and float
yeah.
once or twice, yeah, that felt great, but I think when you do it on a weekly basis,
Right.
if you can, it does just change you. You
It's
feel.
like this accumulative
Yes.
effect.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yes.
Well, okay, and then 31 days, I kind of like to think of it as like a, walkathons or a jogathon,
Exactly.
a floatathon.
Like
And we're going to help
a
raise some money
floatathon,
and help some folks out.
Exactly.
Okay.
People run marathons to raise money or awareness. This is my way of doing it.
Well, awesome. Well, we are so honored here at Still Life to have you share this story with us. Because I know that these things can be very hard to talk about, especially with the clients who do come in here for these reasons, and we just keep it all very personal. But when you came to us and wanted to try to help others, it was very touching. And so I guess we'll just get right into the guts of it. I mean, she's going to open her heart up right now, so I'm just going to let you talk.
Okay, alrighty. So I've always been a kind of a fearful, anxiety, little girl growing up. And then my parents separated and kind of had no parental influence for a couple years. During that time period, I wound up getting involved with somebody and wound up being gang raped by him and his friends. And then I also tried a couple times to take my own life as well. I was 14 at the time. So that kind of set off this, and I didn't talk about it because I didn't know what had happened to me. Didn't know what had been done to me at the time. So I didn't know how to talk about it, didn't know who to go to when my parents were not around anymore as well. So all these years of living with these behaviors, beliefs, ways of living, especially just being on guard all the time, not ever feeling safe, just accumulated. Wound up having my son, was in a kind of a very physical, threatening relationship at that time with his father. Again, just year after year after year, it's years of single motherhood stress as well. And I was in my early 30s when my son and I moved out here, and a year after being here, I wound up having my first PTSD episode, not knowing, again, what is going on, that I'm reliving this horrible event, and then I don't know why all these nightmares are. What is this that I'm going through at the time?
And years later.
Yeah,
and
years
it's still
later.
haunting you.
Yeah. And actually, the average is 7 to 10 years before people will kind of have PTSD or relive from, especially a sexual trauma or other trauma.
That's too long.
Yeah, it is too long. And I went 20 before I wound up having it. So in therapy, we did some cognitive behavior therapy. Half the battle was knowing what had been done to me, and that I was going through PTSD. This is what I'm reliving because I'm in PTSD. I'm experiencing the stress post or after the event. And we did with her, I did some cognitive behavior therapy, I did some art therapy. I tried to talk about it. It was way too early though for me to even try to talk about it at the time.
And so everything's just like deep inside you.
Yes.
And I mean, when I say too long, that probably wasn't a very appropriate thing to say, because I don't think there's any time limit on this stuff. Because I'm just trying to put myself into your shoes, and I just can't imagine like those visions, those thoughts, those feelings in your head over and over that don't go away. And then we talked earlier about how once your mind starts chattering and those thoughts are there, it's just almost snowballs and snowballs and compounds and just gets bigger and bigger before it gets smaller and smaller.
Exactly. It's just hard to shut off.
Well, so when you came to us about a year and a half ago, like how, at that point, how long had it been with this high level of stress and
probably good,
incidents?
with the post-traumatic, it's probably about 10 years, so I'm like 45, so it was about 10, 12 years with the post-traumatic stress.
And then having episodes consistently through that 10 years?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, especially initially, at first I had them a lot, and then, as therapy helped, and I kind of try to retrain my brain on what I would think about myself or what to do if I was, reliving it or whatever. Then I had a period where I maybe had 1 or 2 in a year, especially November. That's when it happened. So I always had it. And eventually learned I would always have one in November almost. It's guaranteed. And then I got involved in human trafficking, with raising awareness of that, volunteering in that arena, and learned a lot about why I have the behaviors I have because of what had been done to me. So again, but then, I'm exposed to triggers all the time again. So I saw the PTSD increase again as I was going through that as well. And then I wound up making changes in my life with my career, wound up with 3 jobs, got away from the volunteering, but then I had all the high stress of 3 jobs. You just go into high stress to high stress to high stress.
And then also being a single mom, raising your son.
Right, for 18 years I was a single mother, yeah. By the time I was volunteering with the human trafficking and the 3 jobs, my son was out of home and married, but yeah.
So, seeing you now, you seem like you relatively have everything under control, or at least a lot more under control.
Yes.
And so, you talk about how floating has done that for you. So, let's just say in this last year and a half, and you did mention the last November, I remember you telling us that was the first time in years that you didn't have a post-traumatic incident.
The first November I did not have one.
After all those years, and then and you attribute it to floating.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what the next question I want to ask you. So I don't want to say you've totally broken free yet, but it sounds like you're in a
Right.
much better place.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm totally broken free either. I'm like a little hesitant
Yeah.
to say that myself.
Yeah, and I would. So how do you gauge yourself 18 months ago versus now through the floating?
Oh, much more calm. I can, being in the state that I was in, being on guard all the time, and and not feeling safe. And I numbed myself with alcohol for a while when I was a teenager as well. Didn't let myself feel stuff. Kind of had to start feeling stuff during, therapy as well, but still just, kind of very reserved. After I started floating, somebody said, "You're not as uptight anymore." So I'm guessing I was just uptight all the time because I was always on guard all the time. And so floating just kind of brought down that stress where I could just be more calm. I want to say more realistic about things, because the hypervigilance is just this, or OCD is just this real high state of paranoia and not realism in a sense. It's really hard to explain, but I just feel like I can be more real about the world, more real about who I am, be better at the techniques and tactics that I've used through behavior therapy. It's made me just utilize them better. So I feel better about who I am. Since I can calm down. And one of my managers at one of my jobs said, "It sounds like you are looking at yourself more subjectively."
And that's a good thing. And liking who you are.
And liking who I am.
Being confident to put all that behind and just go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And know that it's safe to do that. I think that was even probably the first eight months to a year. Floating was still like, when am I going to have an episode? Just like, when is that other foot going to drop? I still never felt really safe.
Now, do you think if you would have found float tanks like 5 or 10 years ago, it could have helped you get here more quicker? Or would you still need that 10 years to just, like if you say the average 7 to 10 years to get past that?
I think if I had found floating like around or soon after I had started regular behavior therapy, yes, I think it could have augmented it very well to speed up some of those processes that come with retraining how you're thinking, taking me out of that high stress all the time to be able to look at things more realistically.
Then I just think that if you could have just had this help even way further back after the first incidences.
Oh, yeah.
Before the suicide attempts or even after, to just get yourself,
More
well,
settled,
don't feel
more
bad.
calm.
We're all just learning about floating. It seems
Exactly.
like,
And I don't know the science behind it because I haven't,
Well, I don't really understand either, but there's a gentleman, Dr. Justin Feinstein, who's at the Research Institute, who runs the Float Lab or the Float Research Center. He speaks just passionately about the work he's doing and how it is helping folks, get through, these high hyper-anxiety states, these post-traumatic states of mind, by just shutting down the mind and helping you the introspection of what you talk about, and just to find that inner peace inside, and then quiets the mind. And he talks a lot how quieting the mind through a float tank quiets the mind just like a lot of the anti-anxiety drugs do, but without the side effects. Not saying you shouldn't take those drugs in certain situations, they are very beneficial, but this is a great tool to help you get there and help you get there quicker and just and on your own. I think that's a big thing too, to do on your own, that personal self-healing journey, which is what we're all about here at Still Life. We just love that. So I'm so excited.
It's just my one way to take care of myself, and I've been more prone to learning how to take care of myself better since floating. I've learned the self-esteem, I've doing the self-respect, and made all those journeys through the art therapy and the therapy and the writing and all that, and just life in general too, as well as the confidence grows. But
and just a combination of all of those things too. I'm so glad that this has helped you. Well, I just want to thank you for sharing this story, because you and I were talking a little bit before this interview. The main reason why you were doing this was because you hear about all the post-traumatic incidents with float stories, generally being men, the veterans of war. I mean, it's been a very great tool for vets coming home to learn about this, but we don't hear a lot about this, and it's hard to talk about. I think, we kind of, a lot of the states shoved under the rug a lot of times, and women don't necessarily come out and talk about it because it's hard.
It is
it's so. You almost had me tearing up when you were telling the story. It's like, I just didn't know all those details, you
Right.
know? I knew that you'd had some dark
Some big
things.
things.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that the light is now shining on you,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
thanks
and
for
I,
sharing that.
yeah, and I wanted, I think this made me comfortable talking about it because then I finally I had that so-called light at the end of the tunnel. It wasn't just me sharing my story and then that's it. It was like, these are some concrete things, and this is a concrete thing that has taken away those physical symptoms of an episode coming on, or basically, this physical symptoms of the episode coming on, going, oh, I got a little high stressed here,
And I know you've come in a few times saying, I really need my float
Yeah.
today. Yes, I'm ready for this float today.
It's like I know now
Yeah.
because my stress has gone down. I'm out of that adrenaline mode where I can go ahead and feel things again and know that, okay, I'm in real pain, I'm really emotional, I need to take care of
And the
myself.
float tank certainly does lower those
Oh,
levels.
yeah.
All
Whereas
of the-
before, I wouldn't know, and then I'm in high stress, and then I'm having an episode because I'm just
Yeah.
overwhelmed with everything, physically and mentally inside my head.
Well, I'm so happy. That's exactly why we're here, is to provide that safe and calm and quiet place, and I'm so glad that it was able to work for you. Okay, and thank you for sharing it
Thank
with
you.
anyone else out there who
Thanks, yeah.
might be looking for a little extra help. We believe in this wholly and 100%. Floating is awesome. It's in so many ways. Yes, so many different reasons why to float.
Amazing.
Yeah. So just a couple of things to wrap it up. So anybody who would like to learn more about this, I encourage you to go listen to some of Dr. Feinstein's speeches at the Float Conference website. I think you just Google Float Conference, and a lot of the talks he's done are videotaped and you're able to watch those. Maybe read up on a little bit of the information at the Libra Institute as well. And I just want to wish you luck on your 31 days afloat. We're going to start the whole month of January of 2018, bringing in the new year with a bang, or not a bang, a float tank, I should say.
Yeah, a little more calm.
Yeah. So please consider helping Leslie get through this float and visit her GoFundMe page, and I believe it's called 31 Days of Rest, R-E-S-T, with Leslie Wargo. And half the money raised is going directly to the float therapy research, and if we hit the $2,500 mark, that'll cover all of our expenses and everything for this journey, and then anything on top of that will be 100% donated. So thank you, and we'll see you in the float tank soon.
Thank you.
That went pretty good.
Yeah.
And, 17 minutes.